Hey, what's up, you guys? It's Bloody Jacob here to bring you my weekly review on The Strain. And this week we've seen the episode which is entitled It's Not For Everyone. And so we get off to a very fast start, right after we seen at the end of last week's episode with Ephraim killing the fully transformed Redfern, the pilot he was trying to save. And so they're all, Ephraim, Nora, and Jim are all in kind of like a shock. They just really have no idea what really happened, because obviously this is their first full-on encounter with, what's actually starting to go on in the world they're in right now. So we see quite a few grotesque, I guess you could say grotesque. I mean, I've seen much more gory scenes before, but I guess some people would be pretty freaked out by this. We basically see Ephraim and Nora open up the body, because as Ephraim says, he can't say it was all self-defense if he can't give an explanation if he doesn't know exactly what was wrong with him in the first place. So it's his explanation. I guess it sort of makes sense. And so they open up Redfern and they just see the insides and the biology of what happened to Redfern, a vampire basically, but they don't know that yet. Is the biology of the body is just completely different. He only has one lung, and a lot of things are in different places. Are new organs are actually fresh that have grown inwards, that have grown inside him that are going outwards. And so it's very, very strange, because you'd think that all his organs would be dead or something like that, or at least as Ephraim says, he would have thought that the lungs would have looked like cancer had hit it or something like that. But no, the guy actually got fresh organs and different organs that humans don't have because of the transformation. So it was kind of interesting getting a look into the biological side of the transformation quite a bit. And then we see they actually pull the tongue out, they use to, feed and stuff like that. And it goes at least, I want to say roughly 6 feet. I could be wrong, more or less. But yeah, it's pretty long, and they pull the whole thing all the way out. And yeah, I admit it was pretty gruesome. I don't know if I want to say gruesome, disgusting. It was, but I'm not quite as easily shaken by that kind of thing as some people may be. I've seen worse, but I can definitely see that, it's definitely something you might not be quite into if you're not used to those kinds of things. So we've seen that, and that's a pretty interesting scene, like I said, for the biology side of it. And I know you get a pretty big confession from Jim, about how he let that van pass, with a coffin in it in the first episode. As we know, he was basically paid off by Thomas because, they knew about his wife's cancer and, how, all his debts and all that. And so we, as an audience, sort of understand, why Jim would do that. And, Jim tries to explain himself to Ephraim and Nora, but and Ephraim is just in a complete state of just, he completely failed to save Redfern, and now everything else going on, it's just everything's falling apart, and I'm sorry if I'm not really explaining it that well, but I'm trying here, guys. So then we seen what really ticked Ephraim off here is when Jim, said he'd basically do anything to help or save his wife, and thus implying that Ephraim wouldn't do anything or wouldn't do as much to help his family. And that just completely snapped Ephraim, and Ephraim just, threw a punch and he knocked Jim to the ground. Which I sort of don't blame Ephraim for doing that, especially after the line about his wife, or his ex-wife. That was a pretty intense scene. Great acting on the part of Corey Stoll, of course, and the actress who plays Nora, and the actor who plays Jim. Just a really good chemistry of acting between the three, I think. And yeah, it was like sad to see how they all kind of broke down there and kind of felt the team kind of fell apart. Nora tries to talk to Ephraim afterwards, and she says she sort of understands why Jim would go to such great lengths to save the person he loves, and she would do the same thing. So yeah, there's that. Some like I said, well acted scenes. And then we've seen, I'm sorry if I forget his name, it could be Gus, but the Mexican guy who actually drove the van, and he was paid by Thomas to do it and stuff like that. We see more of his life at home, his brother and his mother, whom he cherishes so much. We see one of his friends stop by, and we see his trouble with the landlord and different things like that. And we just see him get this deal done to get quite a bit more money and things like that. And we also see him return the clock to Abraham. That he and the brother stole, a couple episodes ago. And you know how Abraham is. He just sort of comes off like bitter, which he is, but you sort of understand it if you knew what he's all about. But he said that would likely be the only good thing that happens today, or something like that. And then Gus takes that as him being ungrateful, and he just storms out and leaves the clock behind. So yeah, there's that. I don't really know how I feel about Gus. If I'm getting his name wrong, I'm sorry, but the Mexican guy they've been focusing on. That's probably the least interesting part of the story to me right now. It's not like poorly done or anything. It's just not overly intriguing to me. I'd much rather see some scenes with the exterminator or something like that. But again, they weren't badly done scenes or anything. I'm just not as intrigued by that. So there's that, and a big part of the episode is Ansel, and Ansel is one of the survivors of the plane. Actually the ones that were really infected. The ones they've been focusing on at home, like Gabriel and the lawyer and different things like that. We seen last week that, or at least a couple episodes ago, I'm sorry I might be getting a little out of order with that, but we seen that Ansel's wife had seen him drinking the blood out of the dish of the raw meat they had in the fridge. So yeah, she definitely knew something was wrong, and this week we seen Ansel basically tell her to take the kids and go to their grandparents or something like that. But then he told her to leave their dog behind to keep him company. And right there he knew what was going to happen. As I've mentioned before, I'm not a huge fan of animal violence or things like that, but I can take it. I've seen movies like Ginger Snaps. Those are pretty dog killing happy and things like that, but I still don't enjoy seeing that. But we basically see Ansel's wife return to the house, and she sees the shed has been locked, and she finds the dog's collar, and it's bloody and torn and stuff like that, and she finds the dog's corpse, of course, and the dog, I don't want to get too graphic here for anyone who's watching my video, but the dog has been disemboweled, and it looked like the heart might have been torn out of its chest. Yeah, I don't really like talking about that, especially with animals, but that's what it looked like to me. And so yeah, the wife immediately just starts breaking down and doesn't really understand what's going on with her husband and why he would do that. But of course she was, somewhat aware that something was wrong with him before. And so she, of course, has to open the shed. And then, we just see Ansel. He has been almost fully transformed. He's lost most of his hair. He's barely able to hold himself back from fully attacking his wife. He tells her to get out and, lock the door and things like that. He has himself chained up and things like that. And, she's really hesitant, to leave him behind in the condition he's in and stuff like that, even though he's, he's a complete beast, and he tells her that all he wants to do is tear her throat out. But, so yeah, she does close the shack door, and yeah, then eventually there's this neighbor of hers that comes over, and he's starting to complain to her about all the noise and stuff like that, which he assumes to be the dog. And, but we of course know it's implied that, it was probably Ansel who was making all the noise and causing all the ruckus, things like that. And, we see a bit of a psychotic twist here with Ansel's wife. She basically tells him she's keeping the dog locked up in the shed, and that, the neighbor could go in and, teach him a lesson because she doesn't have the heart to do it. So this is, like, darkly funny in a way because, the guy's all snobby and he takes his belt off and he goes in there to, probably beat the dog or something like that. But, she pushes him inside and, locks the door, and just hear him being completely torn apart by Ansel in there. So, that was one of the more brutal, somewhat shocking scenes in the series so far. Just that whole sequence of Ansel's wife finding the dog and the whole neighbor thing, and this emotional torment both of them would be having to go through with that. And of course we see in the promo for next week's episode that looks like Ephraim and likely Abraham are gonna be going to that shed, so we'll probably see that accumulated pretty soon. But still some interesting stuff, and you really do feel bad for, the couple and the family, despite the fact that he's, really just a monster now, and she's just gone psychotic and is probably going to try to feed people to him. But, it's still kind of, sad to think about, So there's that. Then we got some scenes with Palmer, and if you don't know who Palmer is, he's the rich billionaire that Thomas has been trying to use, for all the money and stuff like that. And, he was promised, basically a new life to, to be fully healed, which, of course we understand would likely mean him being transformed into a vampire as well. And we just see Palmer supposedly just getting more sick from the disease he had, but more likely is the fact that, he has been turned into a vampire, and as we've seen with the others, he seems to be really sick before he transforms, so he'll likely transform before then. And before he really gets going with that, though, we see him and Thomas, they talk to this girl, and she's gonna take down all the computers. She's a hacker, and she's gonna take the whole thing down so they don't have any power to do that anymore with the internet and different things like that. And she actually shuts the whole thing down throughout the city. So there's that. The guy who plays Palmer, I think, is a pretty good actor, but I'm just not too concerned about him. But I understand that, Thomas is wanting to use him as a resource, and that's a position of power that they can put one of their people in. So I understand it's fundamental and key to their whole taking over design. So it is still fairly interesting in my opinion. And I just don't really want to miss anything with this. I think I covered most of it minus the final scene, which I'm going to get into in a second. Okay, so we eventually see Ephraim and Nora. They go over to that guy's house who had the daughter, the one in the first episode. He was angry about all the bodies not being returned and stuff like that, and he came home, and then his daughter came home, the little girl who was fully transformed into a vampire attacked and killed him. And so we see Ephraim and Nora come to that house out of suspicion and things like that, because they remember the guy telling them about thanking them for returning his daughter to him and things like that. And so they basically knew if something was up with Redfern, something's probably up with the little girl as well. So there's that. And they go inside, and they eventually, it's really dark and, really eerie. I really like the tone of the show again. And, we basically see him go downstairs. It's all, hardly lit, and, we see the little girl standing in front of the TV, with a cartoon on, and it has, really cheerful music and stuff like that. These guys really love doing that. They like having, the happiest songs playing during the most horrific scenes. So, And we see her turn around, and of course she's a vampire, and she, and yeah, both Ephraim and Nora are pretty shocked by that, and she tries to shoot out her tongue at Ephraim, and he dodges it a couple times again, which is pretty cool to see. I just like seeing him avoid death, I guess. But, yeah, she tries to attack both of them. And then we see Abraham appear out of nowhere, and he just, like, swings that sword he has and just takes her out. Yeah, just, like, completely out of nowhere. I guess some people could argue that was a little cliche or unrealistic or something like that he would just happen to be there and show up at the exact right moment. But, no, I'm just not going to dig too much into that. I thought it was a pretty cool scene. And then we see the fully transformed father come up from behind him, and Abraham kills that one as well. So yeah, there's some pretty cool action sequences with Abraham there. And yeah, the closing scene we see is that Nora's like just really breaking down over seeing that little girl being killed and the father and stuff like that. And she is still trying to hold on to that idea that they're people and they can be cured. They shouldn't be, exterminating them. They should be, just holding them and trying to find a way to help them. Which you sort of understand, you sort of don't. Of course we know that there's not going to be any way to really prevent this anymore. But, we sort of have to understand that she's still trying to hold on to that ideal, and it's really not that far into the takeover yet. So we sort of understand her perspective, or at least I do. And, Ephraim tells her that, they're hunting us, and he tries to help her and get her into her mind, but she's not really wanting to get into it very much. And, Abraham tells Ephraim that, it's not for everyone, which happened to be the name of the episode. And a pretty interesting line that Abraham had to Ephraim is, I know you must love her for that. And like what he meant was that Ephraim probably loves Nora for, being so good and pure and stuff like that, and wanting to help as many people as she really can. So yeah, that was a pretty interesting scene. Some, again, really solid emotional acting with Corey Stahl and the actress who plays Nora. You're beginning to care a little bit more about their relationship, or at least I am. So yeah, there's that, and yeah, I think that's basically everything that happened in the episode. I think I touched on most things. And so yeah, it kind of looks like we'll be seeing Ephraim and Abraham starting to work together. And I was kind of impressed with Ephraim. He's already embracing the idea that they have to eliminate all of the infected bodies from the plane. I'm just kind of impressed with this character that he's already, sort of adjusting to what they have to do. So, hopefully we'll see Ephraim become a more efficient killer of these things. And looks like next week we'll be seeing Ephraim and Abraham, tracking those other bodies and people down, which includes that shed with Ansel and stuff based on the previews. So yeah, another solid episode. I know some people have still been complaining about the slower parts and things like that, but I've been enjoying almost all of it, especially with Ephraim, Abraham, and Nora and things like that. I even love the scenes with Ephraim's family, and you guys know what I think about that. I just have been enjoying it all the way through. I think it's a great show, and I really hope they get renewed and they get to go on for as many seasons as they want, which is supposed to be around 5, to the best of my knowledge. So I hope they can do all of that. I mean, I know the ratings have been amazing for the show. They've been ranging between 2 million to 3 million. But that's still more than most of Fargo's episodes, and that was renewed recently. But I know more money's probably put into making The Strain, but I still really hope that it gets renewed and gets to go on for as long as they want. So yeah, another solid episode. I'm definitely looking forward to next week's. And yeah, so I'll catch you guys next time, most likely for my review on Ginger Snaps Back at the beginning, which will probably be middle or late this week. And yeah, I'll catch you guys later, and peace.